Is hard mode actually
the
hard?
Ulduar PTR has been up for a couple of days now, and I've been taking a first look at it from the 10-man normals all the way up to the 25-man hard modes. Let's just get it straight out of the way. This will be by far and away the largest step up in raiding difficulty in Classic so far, and it's just not even close.
I think that you could say that Sunwell was probably the second highest. Like, Sunwell was the first real, like, I would say Nax, actually. In Vanilla WoW, Nax was the reality check for guilds back then. And then Sunwell was the reality check for guilds in Burning Crusade. And Ulduar is the reality check for guilds in Wrath.
At the gear we will approach this content, a lot of it is very tightly tuned, borderlining on not possible without extreme class stacking. If your guild progressed on pre-nerf tier 5 content or on the Sunwell, well, you better be getting back into that mindset if you've the goal of seeing everything that Ulduar has to offer. I think a lot of the semi-hardcore guilds are really going to be put to the test in this instance early.
I think this is a good thing. Making the fights really, really hard at the beginning is okay. But what I do think they should also do is that after the fight is, you know, like people have done it a lot, and, you know, it's, you know, Ulduar's been out for a while, I think they should nerf it. Absolutely. That way other guilds can get in and do it too.
And even the real hardcore speedrunning guilds will experience progression. And whilst gear from the instance will certainly bridge the gap over time, there are quite a few mechanic check bosses later on in there too. Before we go on, I want to do a quick shout out to today's video sponsor, Keeps. Keeps is an online subscription service that helps men keep their hair where it counts, with personalized and clinically proven treatments that are delivered directly to your door. 2 out of 3 guys will experience some form
Bro, I bet Keeps is going to sponsor Willie for the rest of his video career. Because think about it like this. Who needs anti-balding stuff more than classic WoW players? Like, it's perfect.
35, but Keeps has you covered. Keeps treatments are doctor recommended and delivered straight to your door, saving you on both time and money. So whether it's preventing loss, stimulating growth, or just taking better care of your hair in general, Keeps can help.
Great.
Once subscribed, you'll get refill reminders as well, so you're never caught short on the products you need to take care of your hairy goals. Hair loss stops with Keeps. To get 50% off your first order, go to keeps.com/WillE, or click the link in the description.
No.
That's keeps.com/WillE. Many thanks to Keeps for the sponsor today.
To be honest, it's not that I don't think it would work. It's that I'm very paranoid about doing medical things. It's just a personal thing to me. So that's why. It has nothing to do with even the product.
Let's talk WoW. As of Blizzard's recent patch notes on Ulduar, this place has been giga buffed all of the way
Holy
through.
fuck.
Take XT on hard mode for instance.
XT Deconstructor, people thought it was impossible to do. Nobody could do the hard mode because it did so much damage and it had so much health.
The 4th or 2nd boss, I guess, if you prefer, and his hard mode is entirely optional. Even if you want to do Algalon, you don't need to do this, it's just there for the achievement and some extra loot. And you should probably be thankful that this is optional, because the DPS check in tier 7 BIS is crazy high. I did a little bit of digging on the internet and found an old Tank Spot video, that's a blast from the past name, about a guide on XT hard mode. Here you can see after they kill the heart and activate hard mode, there's still an 8-minute enraged timer, which began at 10, and the boss heals up to 36 million health. So we're talking an overall raid DPS of about 75k to meet that, and if we break that down over 19 DPS, that's under 4,000 each, which isn't exactly much of a tall order, is it?
No.
Here is, in comparison, today's XT. First up with current gear,
What the Tank Spot guide, see, like, Willie might not remember this, but XT Deconstructor was unkilled. It was one of the only hard modes that nobody could kill. It was either on 10-man or 25-man because of how high the damage requirement was. So any video that you see of the XT Deconstructor fight, like, being killed, was after the nerf.
More or less have to pop hero and cooldowns to burn through the heart and actually activate hard mode in the first place, at which point it heals to full health and his health bar goes to 56 million with an enrage timer of 6 minutes. Let's do some quick maths again. That's an average raid DPS of 155,000 needed with
Divide that by
around
19.
8k per DPS if you were
Jesus.
using 19 of them. And 8k DPS maintained over 6 minutes on a single
Yeah,
target.
anybody can burst 8k DPS, but I feel like a lot of classes will probably hit 8k DPS with like semi-Ulduar Abyss.
Is actually
That's
pretty
insane.
tough, especially when you've just blown all your cooldowns to actually activate the hard mode in the first
Exactly.
place. There were some DPS sims going around the other day estimating performance changes from P1 bis to P2 bis in Wrath Classic.
Now,
and
another factor is that obviously it's not really 6 minutes flat. It's more like 6 minutes and 30 seconds. So the real DPS check is going to be somewhere around probably like 8,000 rather than like 8.1.
a dozen or so classes are estimated of actually being capable of doing upwards of 8k, and again these sims are with bis, being played perfectly, and on a 3-minute patchwork encounter. But XT isn't entirely a patchwork encounter either. There are ads that now spawn from the light spark, and you have to move out with gravity well. Also, it's extremely healing intensive too, as his tantrum is doing 10% max health every second over 12 seconds. You need big cooldowns for each one to smooth out the damage. Just as a comparison of how much 155k DPS over 6 minutes really is, top speedrun guilds are currently doing patchwork in about 1:30 with an average raid DPS of 180k. That's full blast on a zero mechanics fight, and it's not massively ahead.
Yeah, if you add in the mechanics for this, and also if he eats one of those robots, it heals him. Green, thanks for 5 subs.
Hard. Another one I got to see quite a bit of was the Iron Council, which it turns out on hard mode isn't a joke fight either. None of them are, really. If there was an easiest hard mode, it would be Thorim. On Iron Council, the final phase of the fight has the boss instant kill a target every 25 seconds. After this happens, he heals 20% of his max health, reducible by Mortal Strike effects, and gains 25% more damage. Realistically, he has to die before the third instant kill, or he'll just randomly start one-shotting people. He has 10 mil health, which needs to be done in a
Well, it's also that he has this debuff as well that deals raid damage to everybody. That also makes him really strong. And then the tank has to run out because it makes the tank do way more damage whenever they have the buff, and then they have to run out and die.
Around 1 minute, so you're looking at about 166k raid DPS. You do enter the phase with a rune that increases damage by 50% and or your cooldowns, however, so it's not as hard as XT. Still, it's a very tight DPS check in Phase 1 gear, and it's worth mentioning too for the current PTR pass, you can stack classes and gear as much as you want. All Phase 1 gear is on vendors, so people are giving themselves the best chance of success here. And as hard modes are, that is on 25-man. 10-man is significantly easier on both difficulties.
Somebody's saying, I think Willie is specifically talking about buffed classic Wrath version, not the OG. Have you done a new version? No, see, like, what you don't understand is that this is the OG. The original Ulduar got nerfed like 10 times before TOC even came out. Even world-level guilds, like top world-level guilds, many of them did not clear Zero Light until after TOC came out. Ulduar was no fucking joke, man. Like, the hard modes were disgustingly hard whenever they came out. It was probably, like, for its time... It's hard to say that it was harder than Sunwell because people class stacked like crazy on Sunwell, but I would say that, again, the guilds that cleared Sunwell probably still couldn't clear this.
XT again, for example, on 25-man the heart has 10 million health to do in 30 seconds, on 10-man it has 1.7 mil, and when we did it the boss was also bugged and not doing the extra mechanics, but it was an easy one-shot regardless. Normal 10-man will also drop some big upgrades compared to tier 7. The best items we can get in tier 7 at the moment are from 25-man KT and Malagos, and these are item level 226. Ulduar 10 normal will be 225, 10 hard mode 239, and 10 hard mode weapons 245. 245 is what you would originally get in Wrath from Trial of the Crusader 25-man normal. I think for a lot of guilds out there, the week 1 play is 100% going to include 10-man raiding. You don't want to pass up on all these chances for upgrades.
Oh, of
the
course.
exception for 10-man being quite a bit easier is Algalon, though. On both difficulties, this fight is not a joke. He's received about 20% bonus damage and health to...
I'm gonna be honest, guys. I think Algalon is one of the easiest fights in Ulduar. I think the only reason that Algalon is hard is because you only have an hour to kill him, and people are fucking stupid. Algalon's a gear check. Algalon, yeah, it is. Firefighter was harder. Yeah, Firefighter's 100% harder. It's not even a
Keep
question.
him as a relevant challenge, and let me tell you, if you thought Brutalis could go through your tank's health bar fast, wait till you see the amount of damage Algalon does versus tanks in tier 7 gear. He was
I feel like Brutalis is about the same, but okay.
already considered a tank buster back in the day, and now you have several healers playing ping pong with your tank's health bar, which is dipping to 20.
See, that's why he's having trouble killing the boss. Here, you want to see why he's having trouble killing the boss? Watch this.
In the day, and now you have
We got Dumbo right here. Dumbo's sitting in the Cosmic Smash. That's why the fight's hard.
several healers playing ping pong with your tank's health bar, which is dipping to 20% every couple of seconds if
That's
the boss
the problem
lands
right
a few
there.
hits back to back. Oh, and he despawns after 1 hour too, so good luck. Moving on though, I also think the content from now on in Classic in general would benefit much more from a guild point of view if you did want to see it all the way through. In tier 7 you...
Yeah, this is very true. There were, how many of you guys remember back in Original Wrath, whenever there were these guilds that were like, yeah, bro, like, we fucking kill Kel'Thuzad every week. Yeah, we got some of the best gear in the game. And then, like, Ulduar comes out, and you never see that guild again. Like, it's not even that the guild, like, it's like the guild disbands. Like, Ulduar literally just destroyed the guild. They go in there, they can't even figure out Flame Leviathan, and before you know it, they're disbanded. It's done.
Could pug it all very easily. Very few pugs are going to be doing any hard modes in any reasonable space of time if they release in their current state.
Hodir, I think Thorum and Hodir hard mode are not that bad. I also think that Iron Council hard mode is not that bad. General Vezix is probably not that bad because the main difficulty factor that General Vezix had was like people that just didn't know what the fuck to do. It's not they didn't know what the fuck to do. Like, let me think of a way to put it. Like, it was shadow crashes. And like, now that people are better at avoiding mechanics, one of the biggest mechanics of General Vezix was shadow crash, and now players are just good enough to avoid it.
As for GDKPs, where there's gold involved, people will find a way. The payout on those big ticket items in the early weeks will push people to clear, but for the most part, I'd expect many of them to default to clearing normal modes for a while until gear allows for hard modes to really be easier. Speaking of clearing the raid in the first place, the world first might actually be a little more interesting and last for over an hour for Ulduar. As of doing this, I believe only 1 or 2 guilds have successfully cleared Yogg Zero and Algalon, and they are currently able to benefit from picking any comp and getting BIS Phase 1 gear. Also, the Realm First achievement, Death's Demise, has been changed somewhat compared to 2009. Now you have to do all the keepers on their hardest difficulty, including the Iron Council, making it harder than it was originally. This has been done so top guilds don't have to choose between an easier and safer Iron Council defeating Runemaster last, and having access to attempts on Algalon in the same reset. Particularly the pre-nerf Yogg Zero fight at the moment really demands you stack as many Warlocks as you can possibly bring.
I feel like this is something that's only going to affect 100 people on each server, so if they're happy with it, then it doesn't really matter.
Either way, expect to see a lot of DK, Rogue, Warlock, Prop Pala Tank, Holy Pala heals, and Disc Priest healers. The harder fights in early levels of gear will need quite a bit more min-maxing than classic content has ever demanded, well, ever, if I'm honest.
Ulduar was the first fight that... So the reason why... There was a Chinese guild that was the world first kill for Yogg Saron Zero. And the reason why they had the world first kill is because they brought like 9 Warlocks into the fight, because they could drain soul and maintain 100% DPS on Yogg Saron whenever he cast out this, I think it's called Lunatic Gaze, that reduces your sanity in the last phase. So yeah, it was stars. Yeah, they used like a drain life strategy on him.
Looking forwards to future raids, Blizzard has not mentioned any plans to do pre-nerf content, so Ulduar pre-nerf could be the hardest raiding we see until Cata Classic. I would appreciate it if Blizzard went to the effort of seeing if there's a possibility of doing pre-nerf in the future too. You can always nerf raiding content if it's too hard, and
I think that having pre-nerf content at the beginning is a good thing because it gives people the opportunity to actually, you know, distinguish themselves. And like Classic WoW is a much easier game than Retail WoW. So because it's so much easier, you want to add at least a little bit of difficulty so the people that are playing it all the time feel like they're actually really, you know, getting rewarded and they're able to, like, you know, their coordination and everything feels like it matters. Because whenever you're doing Nax, like, how much better does it feel whenever you're in like a top speedrunning guild versus just like an average pug? Probably that much better. Probably not much better because it's just the same basic shit. TOGC 25-man no deaths is going to be hard no matter what. Yeah, it will be.
Now have multiple difficulties as well, so people can choose what they would prefer to take on. For week 1 in Ulduar, I think for the majority of the guilds, your progression should actually be on 10-man hard modes, and you should just go normal 25-man as far as you possibly can. The later 10-man bosses do have some challenges to them, and the gear is going to be very important for your overall progression on 25-man. It sucks due to the changes in raid size, but I would schedule in some 10-man for sure. The whole jumping...
you should definitely do 10-man. By the way that Willie just did that was perfect. If everybody played like that in this Algalon poll, the boss would be dead.
Difficulty makes me wonder too, do people even really want hard raids in Classic? It's never really...
No, I don't think they do. I think that everybody says they want hard raids in Classic, but whenever the game is really popular is whenever it's easy. Because if you go and you look at especially like Retail WoW, I think that the super hard raids nowadays make people not want to play the game as much. But the truth is that whenever you compare the difficulty of like Sepulchre Mythic to Ulduar hard mode, Sepulchre's a lot harder than Ulduar is. So if you say you want harder raids, you're saying you might want harder raids than Burning Crusade. And I do think that like Ulduar level hard modes are not really that bad nowadays for an average player. But it shouldn't really go too much beyond that.
Been what it's about. It's always just been...
And I think also keep in mind that it's important that you include it at the beginning, but then you just give people the opportunity to clear the content later after it gets nerfed. I think nerfing content later on is okay, and that way the hard mode guilds are able to, you know, do it earlier and feel good about that, and then the casual guilds can do it later on.
Case that wait till the next raid's hard, this one was easy.
Yeah.
And we did have that partially come true during TBC, but with current...
I do think that if you feel like you have to class stack, and like everybody is killing certain bosses by class stacking, it probably should be nerfed in Classic WoW. It just sucks. Because like the classes are not balanced, they're fundamentally not balanced. There's never going to be a balance change because that's not Classic WoW. So yeah.
Gear levels, and with current balance, Ulduar is just a step up on another level compared to anything else. Tier 7, that being Nax 2510 and so on and so forth, has numerically been the most popular tier of raiding ever in Classic.
I wonder why. Yeah, guys, I wonder why Tier 7 is so popular. Man, Nax must have been a really, really good raid. It's because it gives you the best in slot gear for logging on.
And it's incredibly simple. The amount of people able to easily see the content has been a big win. And I feel as though I always hear people say, go play retail if you want this progression-based content. But with the new divide in difficulty, this content is really coming to Classic now in earnest. Though I will say the two games are extremely different, and there's so many reasons to prefer one game over the other than raiding. There's a lot more...
I think so too. And I think also, like, I mean, I'm going to be real. Like, maybe this is going to upset some Classic players, but the people that I played with in Classic WoW were really bad. Like, super bad at the game. They had no idea what they were doing. That they just couldn't play for shit. And that's who Classic, I think, is also for. I think Retail WoW overall doesn't serve those people very well anymore. Because Retail WoW is really hard. Like, you go and you do a fucking Mythic Plus, and you pull a trash pack, there's 3 different mobs, and each one has 2 different abilities. And you have to deal with all 4 of them. Or all 3, or 6 of them, however fucking many there are. And then also, you've got the 2 fucking affixes, then you've got the base affix from the seasonal at the same time, and then you've got your own proc trinkets, you've got a bunch of... Yeah, it's nuts, man. Kick, interrupt, stun, yeah, knockback. Like, it's crazy.
To both experiences than just this one part of
Shit's
it.
hard.
But Ulduar does feel like a turning point, one that we're not really going to be going back from. We'll see how guilds react to the challenge. Will they push through, or will some guilds just
see? You guys just saw right there. So you see, these are 10 pyrite stacks on Flame Leviathan. One of the people in his group let their 10 stack fall off, and you know why that happened? It's because they're fucking garbage. Should never let your 10 stack fall off. It's so easy.
from. We'll see how guilds react to the challenge.
Pathetic.
Will they push through, or will some guilds just settle as we are a normal mode guild and we do some of the hard modes on 10-man? Oh, and just as a final thought, if this was true to Wrath of the Lich King's original raiding, Heroism and Bloodlust and the rest of your cooldowns would not be resetting on a wipe. Trust me, you're going to be so glad this changed when you're running back to Iron Council for the 15th time in one evening. All in all,
that's again, like, that's the kind of stuff that I feel like every boss fight should reset you right in front of the boss again. You shouldn't have to run back. All of your cooldowns should be reset, and you should just be able to pull the boss again right there. There should be summoning stones or a toy that you can summon that is a summoning stone, and you can immediately get people in. I think that all of that stuff is just wasting time. Like, oh, well, now this is like a -2 minutes, and then you do it 10 times, it's -20 minutes. It's like, fuck. What am I even doing with my life? It's annoying.
Ulduar is shaping up to be a raid which I feel as though lives up to the expectations and the hype that people have given it.
Tier 5 did too. Tier 5 was really hard on release. Like, all the people that I talked to said it was challenging and they enjoyed it a lot. So, like, I mean, we couldn't even beat Ulduar. Like, we went from full clearing Karazhan in one day to not even being able to beat Ulduar.
Yes, expect it to be cleared on day one, similar to how Liquid or Echo may clear the latest retail Mythic raid by the start of the second reset.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean it's easy, it means the good guilds are good at the game, and they prepared a lot more than you have. 10-man raid.
Yeah, I mean, the way that classic guilds play is they play on PTRs. Like, this is what happened in, like, classic vanilla, is that they had PTRs that they would run, like, BWL and, like, AQ on, that was just for that guild to practice clearing the raid as quickly as possible. And I think Ulduar is going to be the same thing. Also, Ulduar is a lot fresher in people's minds, so, because it came out, like, you know, only 13 years ago versus like 16 years ago with some of the old content. So people understand the mechanics more, and it's going to be easier for people to progress through.
Raiding is going to be very important early. They're a source of tons of upgrades, which are going to be super helpful for when you finally go into 25-man, because a lot of the tougher hard modes do come down to damage really solves all of your problems. Speaking of damage though, how should you set expectations for clearing the content? What if you play a non-meta DPS and you're seeing everybody stacking Warlocks, Death Knights, and Rogues? If your main raiding is GDKP, honestly, I bet most of them will just clear their easy
Just buy more gold
fights for some time, and there wouldn't be much specialization exclusion. The goal at the end of the day is to make gold here. If you have one plate wearer in the raid, you're gonna invite a warrior DPS or a rep paladin, despite what any DPS charts may say.
Of course.
In the pug world, I mean, it's not going to be pretty, is it? People already opt for meta comps in tier 7 where bosses are big target dummies with few relevant mechanics.
This is just the way that WoW is. Like, this is never going to go away. It's not like, oh, well, Blizzard's going to be able to solve this problem and get people to not go ahead and metagame. People love metagaming. That's what they're all about. So it makes sense. Like, that WoW has always been about metagaming, min-maxing. Even in, like, vanilla WoW, that's how it was. So that's how all gaming is now. Yeah, the way that you solve this is you just make the classes better. But, I mean, in Classic WoW, you can't do that. So you just want to make the fights easy enough to where it's not... You are not massively handicapping yourself by bringing somebody who's playing the wrong spec. I think that it's important also that each class is good. I don't think every single spec has to be good. There are times where, like, some specs are just better suited for PvP, other ones are better suited for raiding, and it is what it is. I think that's fine. Like Arms Warriors, for example.
Really need to say more. Being a part of a guild depends on your guild quite a bit, but expect a lot of people to come back for Ulduar, and chances are if DPS is lacking, you could very well be on the bench. This is just something that happens when content gets hard, and a lot of the harder fights are DPS checks. Also, if you want the meta achievement to mount, you're gonna want to join a guild. You'd need a Giga GDKP to boost you through that anytime soon. For me, after
people were able to do Iron Proto Drake runs at the end of the game. Like at the end of ICC, you would see like Ironbound Proto Drake runs, which was like the 25-man one, but there would only be like 1 or 2 raids a week, and the raids would be like super exclusive because I was in them. That's actually how I met the people in Indestructible, and I joined a guild.
Having tested this raid on the PTR a little, I can say I prefer the divide of difficulties into separate sections, and I'm surprised how much I've missed the feel of progression raiding. Getting perps and upgrades is nice and all, but it's better when you feel as though you've earned them through overcoming a difficult challenge. And believe me, after you get a first kill, bosses which took dozens of attempts will fall over in a few, and it's a really good feeling. I do hope that Ulduar
it always feels amazing whenever you're like doing a fight that you've already beat a couple of times and everybody has way better gear and you can just fucking steamroll it. It feels so good.
Goes alive in what may appear to be a bit over the top in terms of difficulty on hard mode. I strongly believe gear will really bridge the gap after a first few weeks, and Blizzard can always drop a few nerfs late on into the raid towards when Trial of the Crusader is dropping if they feel as though they need to. It's looking really positive though. We don't have a release date yet, probably mid-January, around then at some point. Also, this was the first round of testing.
It's crazy how popular Classic is.
Maybe they give us some better gear to try with on the second one. Let me know your thoughts though, whether you did the PTR at all, whether you did Ulduar back in the day, and if you're going to be giving it a go when it drops in Wrath Classic. That's everything from me today. As always, thank you all so much for watching and listening in, and I'll see you all in the next one.
Very soon.
Very soon.
Okay. Yeah, I think this is a pretty good video. Overall, I think that Ulduar hard modes, like I've watched a lot of these speedrun guilds in Classic WoW. Some of the people play like bots. Like, they have no fucking idea what they're doing. They're just bad at the game. They're not paying attention. They don't really know the mechanics. They're shit. Like, whenever I watch about, like, oh, how hard Algalon is, and then you have people standing in the red swirly boys, it's like, how hard really was this? Like, is it really the fight's problem, or is it yours? So, yeah, that's what I don't like at all. And obviously, I think that you'll see some of that happen, but with the high-end guilds, they'll probably figure it out. Ulduar will be a point where players that are in your Tier 7 raids right now, they will not be in your Tier 8 raids. You just can't carry them anymore. As I said, and I don't think that's necessarily always a good thing, because Classic WoW is good because it's fucking easy. And I think that also Vault of the Incarnates, this is the new raid in Dragonflight, I think it's pretty fucking easy. I mean, am I crazy? Like there's like 1 or 2 bosses that have a good amount of mechanics, but other than that, I think it's way easier than the previous raids. No, it's not. Heroic is rough. The fights that I've done on Heroic are not rough. It's just that people don't know what they're doing, and they intentionally sabotage the raid to do more DPS. If you had 25 bots that were programmed to do the fight and just apply the mechanics and do average DPS, every boss would die instantaneously. So every raid? Not every raid. I think that there are raids that have like way more mechanics. Like Halandris on Mythic is fucking ridiculous. Like, how can you possibly compare like a Halandris on Mythic and like also the damage that a lot of these things do is insane, or was insane. So yeah, it's not easy, Asmon. I don't think it's as hard as Sepulchre was, and I also don't think it's as hard as Sanctum was, and it's not as hard as Castle Nathria was on release. And I think that's a good thing.